Hello, fabulous people. This is the Together podcast, and this is the place where Sharice and I come together to help you get it together for your everyday business life. So we hope you enjoy. This is the Together podcast. Amazing people out in the world. We're so happy to be here with you guys today. So hello. I am Natalie Elliott. This is the fabulous Sharice B. And Sharice, we haven't told the people who we are in a while. So tell everybody about you. What do you do? How you do it? All the things.
Okay, so I am Sharice B., your personal image consultant and personal brand stylist. And I help women to show up, captivate their audience, and connect with them before they say one word. Mm-hmm. We do that just looking good, feeling good, and projecting the best, highest self and energy, right? Right.
Okay. And everybody, I am Natalie Elliott. I am the owner and founder of Atlanta Sex Therapy and the creator of Maritalpreneurs Weekend Intensives. And so I love my work. I love right now just supporting couples and becoming, their best marital self. So, yeah. All right. I also coach therapists. So, because I've been in the game almost 20 years now. And so I built a practice. I like my practice. It's highly niched. And so I coach other therapists on building their brand, finding their niche, and doing those things. And so I just really love that mentorship opportunity. And today we're going to talk about, this is really a Sharice's wheelhouse. And so hopefully she'll lead the show, and I'm going to try my best to keep my mouth shut because this is where she shines most of all. And what we're talking about today is having a tiny team, and that tiny teams give you big results. How women founders win with a lean. And lean is really a lot of, actually, I'm saying since I was an undergrad, companies have trying to be more lean. And now with the assistance of technology and overseas work, and a lot of not just overseas work, but the gig economy. We can run a lot leaner than we have with a lot less overhead. And so that really talks about, I was saying this is in Sharice's warehouse, that one woman, that CEO, going from a one woman show to a CEO. And so I think sometimes people are scared of what am I, I got to have all these people. And what does that mean? It doesn't have to mean a lot. And so I think Daniel Priestley, is it Daniel Priestley? Yeah, Daniel Priestley. He talks about, having 4 members, like 4 people on your team. Usually somebody who's going to do like the creative design, pictures and all of that. Probably your back end person, your finance person, and somebody probably to help you with your sales. But it's really, what do you need? Where do you need the support at so that you can live that laptop life, if that's what you're trying to live? So also kind of defining what type of life you're trying to live, and then hire for your weaknesses so you can get yourself where you want to go. So Sharice, I'm turning it over to you because you all about the one woman show, the CEO. So tell us what type of mindset is needed. Why I think lean. I also love when you talk about each one of your hires should make you money, and feed into that bottom line. And so how does that help? So you got it, girl. What do you want to say?
Sounds good. Okay. So where do we start today? So, first of all, I think everyone thinks that you need to start with a big team to build big business. And, I will have to say most of the people I know that I rub elbows with, we have small businesses, small teams. A lot of people are still running the one woman show, and I will admit, staying lean is the power move. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make on the front end when we were not as mature in business and not quite understanding exactly what the need was, I think a lot of us hired too much, too many, too soon. Right. I was just talking to a friend of mine who did very, very well in the jury business. and came out the gate balling, and hired a big team. Then when the pandemic happened, she had done so well and she was feeling so confident and, just abundant. And she was. What she did was through the pandemic, she continued to pay her employees. And I think that is where a lot of women, and we're going to speak to the women specifically in this particular, with this point, because we operate emotionally. She wanted to take care of everyone, right? And that was a business mistake.
It was.
So one thing about business is you cannot operate emotionally. Business is business. Personal is personal, right? So what were you going to say, Nat?
Okay, y'all, I ran across this post this morning on LinkedIn, so it's so appropriate. So it's a post by a young lady named Jenna Spitzer, and Jenna's out of South Carolina. But her post says, stop hiring for relief. Start building leverage with your hires. And I was like, wait, what? Because I think that has been my strategy. Like, oh, I can't do this. It's follow the piece. Let me hire somebody. Oh, I can't do this. It's follow the part. Let me hire somebody. And so thinking about this whole how to start building leverage with our hires. And okay. Y'all know I want you guys thinking strategically about your business. Like I want everybody to sit down, and y'all know I'm usually talking about this at the end of the year, and have a 10-year plan for your business. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? So you're moving. So how many employees do you plan to have? What do you plan to have in the bank to support that? And so we don't talk enough about business savings account and business investments account. We talk about it on the personal side, but we don't talk about it on the business side. And so what do you want to have in place before you move forward in your hiring with that? And how can you hire as a strategic part of your business plan and not just, oh my God, everything is falling apart. Now what I got to do? Because that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, out of emergency and desperation. Yeah, and then we make bad decisions out of emergency and desperation, right?
Yep.
So emotion.
Yep.
And that's why it's important to have a board and a team that can help you make those decisions, mentors. So let's get into why people think more people equals more success, right?
You're right.
I think a lot of people, it's kind of to your point, like, some people do it for the look. I know so many people, I'm going to hire this person, that person, and you're not ready. You're not ready for that team yet. Sometimes you don't even need a receptionist because you just don't need to put that payout out there because you are not bringing in the revenue for that. And that's the first thing people want to do is hire for the look. And then to me, out of desperation. And you have to come to a point in your business, which I think is one of the biggest issues when you're first starting your business. You just don't know.
You don't know.
Like here's the thing. People don't think of the hidden costs, of hiring too fast. They don't think about the payroll, managing people versus growing the business. It costs to manage people, and it costs so much of your time and your energy, right? And all of that can kill the momentum of you first and then your team. And then you wonder why people drop off, right? Why people you don't have that longevity with the team members. Because you don't even get the opportunity, or you never gave yourself the opportunity to build with them.
So
you move too fast.
You grow too fast. So that whole managing people versus growing the business. What I need you guys, especially I'm going to talk to my clinicians out there in the world and other service businesses. If you are a main money maker for your business, every hour that you spend managing people is an hour that you're not making money.
Yes.
And it takes like, so you have to have delegation time. You have to have time to strategize. You have to have time to develop the SOP. Like all of these things take time away from growing the business. And so just think about that, because oftentimes, I know I've done it. We hire somebody just like, oh shoot, dang, when am I going to have time to tell this person what to do so that they can do it? Which is where I know a lot of women get caught up, because sometimes it feels like it's faster for me to do it myself. Okay, well, I can bang this out myself. By the time I go write an SOP, which is a standard operating procedure, for them to execute, and then they may or may not get it right, and they got to come back and forth with me doing revisions. And so therefore, it's easier for me to do it myself. The problem with that is that's not sustainable for growth.
Right.
And so you got to see your hiring, I think, two ways. It is going to be a short-term sacrifice on your time for long-term benefits and growth. Also, there's this phrase in the business that I think one of my mentors taught me, and it's hire slow, fire fast. Hire slow, fire fast. So figure out what your hiring process needs to be. So really sit down and figure out, really, what do I need this person to do? And really think about it and write it all out. You may need to watch your own self for a week or two to figure out exactly what needs to be delegated and handed off. You may need to go through everything that you do on your calendar and assign a dollar figure to it to figure out what are the things that I can hand off to somebody else that this fits how much they make per hour versus how much I could make per hour if I'm out there making the money. And so figure out what your process is. I think every interview process at this point should have 2 to 3 steps in it so that you can see the person. A lot of hiring is moving toward people proving their work. And so like, I know some doctor's offices, they'll have, in hospitals, I've seen this too, they have the person come in and work a half-day shift. Let me see how you actually work. You know, when I hired Q, hey Q, she's online. Like I had her come up with a social media plan. I want to see if you can execute and what does that look like. And then in that process. And so learning to hire is a skill that you will need forever. But being strategic about your hiring is a mindset of being strategic about your hiring. And I know it's hard because it gets when everything is piling up, the emails are piling up, the bills are piling up, the things to do list is piling up, and it just feels like I got to get somebody in here now. But if you get the wrong person in, then you will be having this huge business that's supporting 10, 15 employees when it could be done 5, but you didn't have a good hiring strategy. And then making sure that each person is at their capacity for what they can do before you hire, and that you're making the money to support all of them, because that whole payroll pressure, that payroll pressure, I don't know. We can cuss on the internet, but that's a bitch. That payroll pressure, that's a bitch right there.
It is.
Because you'll, to make sure that they have, you usually have to go without. Like it's only so many dollars in the coffers.
Yes, and many a day.
So it's a thing. It's a thing. Okay. All right. And y'all know I always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so you gotta plan this thing out. All right.
Yeah, for sure. I would say something that I learned about myself was, and I didn't do a whole lot of hiring in my business. It was more contracting, having stylists who contracted out with me, makeup artists, photographers, all that. But when it did come to hiring, I had to remove myself. I had my business partner, Danielle. He did the hiring because he was just more experienced and he would not do it with emotion. I see somebody and I like how they look and how they sound, and I like their personality and good vibes, and I'm like, ooh. And then they don't show up and they don't bring their best forward, and I'm like, okay, my bad. And they don't listen and they're great, just so many different things. So I really learned my lesson. So that's something, that's one of those, when you're running everything, you'll find yourself doing too much, overdoing certain things, and just pull another professional in, who may not even be in your industry, and say, "Hey, can you do my hiring for me?"
Yep.
My interviewing mainly, and then I can approve. We can approve together.
That's so good. I love that, and I want to make sure y'all just heard what Cherie said. So she said, I identified that I was not strong in hiring. So I got my business partner to do the hiring because I identified that I go off of vibes and personality, and that's not the best thing to go off for hiring.
Yeah.
And so I brought somebody else in, somebody else on the team, a friend or what. I've known people who, I know one professional, they had their sister come in and do the hiring, and then narrow it down to the top 3. And then the end with the recommendations of why I think you should hire each person. I'm sure there's services and agencies out there, but between somebody in your family, somebody in your friend's family, it can be done if this is a weak area for you. So, and again, I want all of this to be a strategy. I want this to be a strategy. I would love for you to sit down and in your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan, when do you plan to take on the next employee or contractor, and why? Like, what are you identifying that's needed? Where's the weak points in the practice the business that's falling apart? So I'd say mindset is first in hiring and making sure you stay lean. What else do you think? So after mindset, what else do you think is important?
I say keeping it business and not personal. That's extremely important to me. That was a huge lesson for me in business, period. I was such an emotional business owner, and now when I look back, I'm like, oh, just so many things I did. And as I evolved and I had to manage more people, I started to understand, I'm managing them now, telling them, hey, you got to take the emotion out of it. I know your policies say you don't give refunds, but my advice to you is to give that client a refund, and, move her forward in a positive way, because now once social media got started, your stuff is out there. You get a bad review and that could be really ugly. And some people don't care. I really care about bad reviews with what I do. Some people who have like really large clienteles have this big, huge social media, they just kind of tend to not care about 1 or 2 bad reviews. And I'm like, no. I'm not about that. So let's talk more about, why the women founders thrive, with the lean teams, right? To your point, I believe that the lean is a strategy. It's a really strategic advantage. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to that pride and how things look, a lot of people are trying to hire big and look a certain way. And it's like, you have to do this thing strategically so that you can really build, right?
Yeah.
I think that with a leaner team, you absolutely can make faster decisions.
Definitely
The agility is there, the faster decision making, because if you are including the team, okay, boom, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And then we can move on, right? And the profitability, the overhead,
right,
much lower, and you have the higher margins.
Paying for 2 to 5 people is so much cheaper than paying for 10. Just the overhead, just the fees per month. And if you have a team, I'm going to strongly suggest you make sure you have a payroll system. A payroll system. Now, things still may happen with the payroll system, but that end of the year taxes is so much easier when you have a payroll system and you can click 2 to 3 buttons and taxes are done for your employees. So just to throw you guys some that I use Gusto, Gusto. I really love them. They're easy for the most part. So you got to pay for that highest tier to be able to get somebody on the phone when you have a problem. That part I don't like. But aside from that, they're pretty easy. So I've had them probably 2, 3, maybe 4 years now, and I really only wanted to get somebody on the phone one time. That's it.
Good.
So that's a good one. So the agility, the overhead, clarity, less confusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
more
less confusion.
ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe that you lose, the more people you have, you lose their ownership because people start taking ownership. They start thinking it's their business, which to a point, you want them to have some of that, but it's like, what is your personality?
Mm-hmm.
And do I know how to own my position and then lead and manage my team and keep them kind of herded in their positions, right? So I think that one, I absolutely agree with, the less confusion. More people, more confusion, right?
Yeah, which means you have more control. Like if it's only 2 to 5 people, you have more control. And so once you have a business, I think about over 7 is when it starts to really, if you're going to get over 7 employees, you really need to have your policies and procedures and systems in place.
Yeah.
It's a lot of moving people. You can't have 7 different people calling you. You're not going to get any work done and move forward.
Yeah.
And so, so the ability to control is there. All right. So let's talk about 4 pillars of winning lean, like what really works. So again, what we have said. So pillar number 1, if we want to kind of round this up and thinking, pillar number 1 is make sure you're hiring strategically. So think about, what do you want for the business? What do you want the business to look like? So what do you need first to grow? What do you need first to grow? And then after that, I think if we had to look at a second pillar, the second pillar of this will be role clarity and ownership of what you're doing, ownership of what they're doing. And so it's so easy as an owner. And I felt like this when one of my people dropped a ball. Okay, well, how do I need to pick that up? As opposed to delegating and following up, not picking up. Delegating and following up, not picking up. And so really having role clarity for what you want to be doing and what you want to be spending your time on and what they need to be doing and what they're spending their time on. And so, and everybody should know their outcomes. In corporate America, I think it was COVID when key performance indicators became such a buzzword. But that's something that we need to adopt. What are the key performance indicators that I'm looking for my people? And is it clear for them? And is it clear for me? And so I think if there's a third pillar, the third pillar is make sure you have the systems in place before you bring in the staff. So this is I would say the second half of being strategic. So what do you want this person to do and how do you want them to do it? And I do think if you're in the early stages and you find the right person, you can kind of build the systems as you go, and technology is going to change, so you have to change the systems. But I do want you to thinking about the system. Like what do I need this person to do? How do they work into what I have going on? So what SOPs do I need? A CRM in place? One thing that I've noticed, and I'm trying to figure this out right now, is my files in storage is all over the place. I don't have, I feel like, a clear system to explain to somebody else where what files are. Between my Google Drive, my Dropbox, my OneDrive, my literally hard drive, things that I feel like are kind of all over the place. And so those are the things that you want to think about. What is the system for how they're going to do things? So that, because this is the other thing, I want all your employees to be with you because I want them to have that stability in employment. But people change, they transition, they grow, they promote, they get more skills, they move on. And so how do you pass everything on to the next person in a nice, clean, clear, simple way? So what systems do you need to be in place? So I'm really thinking about, I don't know how to get digitally organized. But getting digitally organized in a way in which anybody could come in and find the files that they need, look at our banks of information, and figure out how to go. So, so I think that's another thing that's real important. Hiring, but also thinking, if this person quit on me, how would I be able to like just pass it off to the next person I have to hire? So thinking about that. And I say, if there's one last pillar, I would think pillar number 4 would be profit first thinking.
Well, you know, that's my whole, that's the goal for me, because I was broke, you know, making so much money and just so broke. As an entrepreneur, and that cash money makes you think you're not broke, but you're really broke. You know, and it's like profit first. You know, build a business that pays you and not just employs people, right? And every hire, and we talked about this earlier, every hire should support the profitability. But you know, just to be honest, you don't necessarily know that in the beginning.
You don't know that, you guys. And so I have sat in coaching programs with other clinicians, other coaches, other just business owners, and heard several people throughout the year say, okay, my business is making 6 figures, but I'm only making 40K. My business is making 6 figures, but I'm only making 30K. And so and one of the biggest things is, and we hear it all the time in corporate America, they needed just the company needed to save money, so they slash jobs because that's the easiest way to cut that bottom line and pick those bottom lines numbers up. But in a small business, those people are actually doing things. You can't just collapse it into somebody else. And so thinking about how you're going to stay profitable when you hire people for the longevity is really, really important. So really thinking about that. So, and that's been an important lesson for me, especially with getting the business savings together. And I still struggle a little bit. I need to work on my overall consistency. So, because I'm still having like a really good year and a really bad year, as opposed to a consistent 12% growth. And it's just my energy and focus. I'm really focused. I do something else. I really focus. I do something else. And so I'll personally disclose, like, I've got to work on my business being consistent year after year after year. And really growing consistently. So as of yet, I don't think I have actually, I don't know. I hadn't looked at my numbers for this year, but I would be so proud of my own self if I could look back at my business numbers and see solid growth year after year after year. But I think for me, it feels like it's been up and down. So anyway, all right. So we've been talking about emotions. What other emotions do you think come up with people when hiring, thinking about a lean team being small and fast, small and profitable versus big? What do you think other emotions come up for people?
I think the personal contact, the personal touch, the high touch that you have with the employee and the team, right? It's like, you know, those internal struggles, you know, what's happening with them personally? Like, why aren't they performing, you know, as they were when they first showed up? Is there something personal happening at home? I know for you, Natalie, this is probably where you shine. You're probably able to manage through the internal struggles with your hires. As me, I might be patient, but it's like, I'm not a therapist. You know, I call myself a fake therapist, but it's like, no, seriously, I'm not HR, right? So it's like when people are having these personal issues come up at work, you know, how do you handle them? And it's such a personal space, you know, small niche space, you know, and then sometimes are they doing too much? You know, do you not need them anymore? Do you need to let them go? Then even internally, like, how do you balance the control versus the delegation? And how they see that? Like, do they understand your personality? So so that they hear and see and feel you as a delegator and not a controller, So,
Yeah.
and something I noticed about, now we got people on chat, like sprucing up these resumes and stuff, that they have all these skills and abilities, and then they show up and they just don't have the skill set that you hired them for.
Right.
Then what?
Yep. Which is why I want y'all to hire slow and think about how to get them to show their skills during that hiring process. Let me see. Let me come in and do a test, or whether it's a half-day test or it's a show me test, but really make sure that hiring process is like that. You said something, and I wanna pivot for a minute. It's like I want to take y'all down a side road and have a conversation with y'all. Whether your team is small or big, at some point your feelings are gonna get hurt. It may be they don't see the vision that you see. They don't work as hard as you think they should work. They're not getting things accomplished. They tell you about yourself in some type of way. They you think you're giving them a gift and they kind of throw it back in your face in some type of way. And so I need you guys to know that. And so as you're hiring, small or large, you got to be prepared for that. And so what does that look like? So one of my friends yesterday was saying that she's noticing that she's having some boundary issues with her staff. So she's asking for stuff and it's not due. And so she was just like, I'm going back to therapy because these boundary issues are going to hurt my company in the long run. I'm doing too much to have bad boundaries. And I was like, really? She was like, really? She was like, I see it. And she was like, I see it. I'm not holding them accountable because I don't know why. And so if I'm not holding them accountable, then what do I think is going to happen like a year or two down the line when we need it? And so I thought that was really insightful of herself to see. But I want you to know, whether you got a big team or a little team, you as a leader, you have to grow. There's going to be growth that you have to do. And it could be as simple as showing up online with earrings on after your social media girl has said, can you look better online? And so it might be something little like that, but it's you have to grow. You have to grow. You have to accept feedback, whether the team is small or large. So, okay. All right. Takeaways. What do you want people to take away today?
I would say, I'm so sorry, guys. So much going on. I would say, see yourself hiring. You probably need to hire. And if you're still operating in that woman show and you don't see growth and you see overwhelm and you see yourself burning out, you probably need to hire. You need to take all this advice when it comes to hiring and be careful that you don't hire in desperation. When you kind of desperately need help. That means, seek some therapy or, take some time, seek counsel so that you hire properly and you can hire strategically,
Definitely. So, let's see, so many things are running through my head for hiring because it's such a huge part of business. Talk about the things that they don't talk about when everybody's like, I'm going to open up a business. It should be, depending on how big your business was, like you should start with like, oh my gosh, I've got to learn how to lead well. And so I think that's what I want people to take away from today is you don't need a big team to be a great leader.
Yeah.
And you will always be improving as a leader. There is no, I have arrived as a leader. Like you can keep growing and keep improving, and to be strategic. You got to be strategic. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather you have a smaller team longer than growing up having a big team and then having to let everybody go.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my friends called me the other day and she's working for a company where they just had to give everybody across the board a pay cut. Either pay cut or we lay people off.
Yeah.
And so she's struggling with that. because for most of us, our bills will grow to meet whatever our income is. And so having to cut an income usually has you below what your bills are. So it just is what it is. So keeping all of that in mind. Listen, I think companies have been like when I was in undergrad and we were talking about business, we were talking about how we could get more businesses to run leaner. So kind of the 80s was the age of big business. And then the 90s was big business. And then the 2000s is when we started running leaner, especially after the housing crisis in 08, 09. Then a lot of companies started talking about lean. And then that's kind of really the gig economy started erupting out of that. So the companies could run lean without the overhead and still get people in. So, yeah. All right. Last thoughts. Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I just want people to be aware of what you're getting yourself into when you even start a business. I know quite a few people who have retired, because we're at that age where people are retiring early, and they are opening businesses. And you need to be very strategic about that. Do you want to retire and then be working 24/7 in your business? Is that what you really want? What type of business are you opening? What is it going to require of you? It's definitely going to require a team, pretty much. So, 1 to 2. 1 to 2, most likely. So those are things that you should think about.
That's funny you say that because I just did a recent coaching session with a wonderful young lady who had retired and saw herself opening a business that was going to have like 4 locations. And I was like, wait, you're talking about commercial buildings. You're going to have to buy 4 locations?
They don't even know what that is.
We're talking about possibly $4 million in property and notes that got to be paid for. How about we start with 1 location? How about we try to get that one paid off as soon as possible, just so that if you needed to sell at any moment, let's talk about your exit plan, because you're talking about going big and you're in your 70s, baby. I don't think you have a full 30 years to be in the workforce. Do you want to be in the workforce a whole full 30 years? Let's talk about how do we need to do this. So on the day you say, you know what, I don't really feel like working anymore, then you can get out of this. So definitely, I'm going to say if you're over 50 and you're starting a business, start with the end in mind. How do you want to get out of this thing?
Yeah.
I would love for you to be able to walk away with a sold business. I sold it. And now I'm just chilling on the money. And if you want to do something else, do something else. So think about, as you're creating a business, if you're over 50, how am I building this thing, building it in a way in which it can be sold?
Yeah. And that's why you should really consider online business. We're so many people are so stuck on, a brick and mortar. You better figure out what you can do online digitally.
Very true. Yeah. And I love it. I love the opportunities of today.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else you feel complete?
That's about it. I do feel complete. Make sure everyone has saved the date for May 16th.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. May 16th is our date, and we will get that Eventbrite link up soon and very soon. Actually, I'll work on it now to make sure those dates are changed and everything. So we're looking forward to seeing you guys. I'm so excited about spending the day with you guys. So, all right, wonderful people. Y'all have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Audio Jungle.